Hi everyone, this is Darren. Just doing a quick stream tonight for the GMPFL draft. I apologize to those of you in the league. I've been traveling quite a bit and didn't have a chance to do this initially, so hopefully we can get through this pretty quickly and it should go smoothly. Hopefully all of you can hear me okay as well. For those of you not aware what GMPFL is, it is the coaches league for um, SimNation. Essentially, this is a league where you can do everything you can do in the game normally, except for you can't create custom playbooks, and you have to use your coach's playbooks. League's been around, I think, for like 3 seasons now, if I remember correctly. So definitely, if you are interested, let me know. Um, but we'll go ahead and continue with the draft. The first picks already happened was Quinn Peterman, who was a quarterback out of Pittsburgh. Atlanta's up next. They are a CPU, so I will go ahead and let the CPU make a pick. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. And then I believe that the third pick is actually going to be Cotton. So just bear with me. I'm going to navigate across multiple screens. Slacks, running back Kyle Clark. And I don't believe Cotton will be on because Cotton is in Germany. So let's make sure he's got a list. It looks like he does. He's picking Robert Terrell. Um, so let's see here. We'll go ahead and do that. Um, Chicago. And then we'll take a look at both of these selects. Tight end. And again, bear with me. I'm trying to do this by myself, and I've had some computer issues today, so this may not be the smoothest stream I've ever done. So we'll take a look at these last two picks here real quick, as well as Quinn Peterman. So Quinn Peterman was the likely #1 pick. He's the best quarterback in the draft. But arm 9, 10, intelligence 9, accuracy. Now, bear in mind, Fog of War is turned on in this league, which means that you don't know if the 9 means it's 90 plus or if it's 85. 10 doesn't necessarily mean that it's 100. It could mean that it's somewhere between 9 and 10. So pretty good quarterback there that Green Bay gets, who had a pretty good career in college. Kyle Clark, of course, is a running back out of North Texas. Again, no traits, but had a pretty good career as well. The stats for some of these players are going to look lower than if you notice, like with SNCFL. The league that feeds us GMCFL has only been around for 2 seasons or 3 seasons. So again, the numbers aren't going to be as high because these people started fresh, but a pretty good running back for Atlanta. And then, of course, we have the Chicago Bills, who are coached by Cotton. And it looks like he got himself a pretty fast tight end in Robert Terrell out of Texas Tech. So I would say not too many shocks so far with who's getting drafted, but it definitely is a good thing. So we will go on to Arizona. I think Arizona is CPU as well. Just going to double check that and make sure. And for those of you wondering, I'm double checking behind the scenes to make sure. So they will go ahead and they pick tackle Lenny Burnell. We'll go ahead and say that. And Lenny Burnell, of course, is one of the better tackles in this draft. He's out of Minnesota. Good pass blocking, decent speed, good intelligence, got lots of strength, and no real trait, but that's still definitely a really good pickup for Arizona. Philadelphia normally is Don Lucky, but he hasn't uploaded in a while, so I'm going to CPU that. So they pick Jason Batman, who's a defensive tackle. Or James Batman, sorry. Batson, not Batman. Um, it's been a long day. And this will bring the Jets up. The Jets are on CPU as well. So we'll go ahead and select they'll took Vernon Ryan. And we'll stop and take a look at both of those real quick. That brings up the Rams. I think the Rams are actually CPU as well. But let's look at Batson real quick. So out of Nebraska, defensive tackle, good strength, good speed, good tackling, good pickup for the CPU in this case. The Jets picked Vernon Ryan, who's someone I was pretty high on. He's out of Georgia. 8 agility, 7 intelligence, 10 speed, 9 hands. Again, Fog Award doesn't mean that he's actually that fast. He could actually be somewhat slower, but had a really productive career out of Georgia. So again, really good pickups so far for most of the players. And let me bounce back and forth a little bit just to make sure I'm still streaming, and I am. So the Rams will pick next. They are CPU, and they pick up running back William Britt. So up next is the Titans. I believe the Titans, if I remember correctly, are CPU. So we'll let them pick real quick. Again, another running back off the table. I believe the Jaguars are also on CPU. If you're interested in this league, there are a lot of teams that are open, lots of good ones. And again, the main difference between this and like the WWPF, which is the older of the two leagues, is WWPF allows you to create custom playbooks and do all that, whereas in this league, you can do pretty much everything except for create custom playbooks. So we're up to the Steelers, who are CPU, I believe. Yep, still CPU. So we'll pick real quick there. And I think we are now to Udo, who I don't believe is on. But let's go back and take a look here real quick. William Britt is a pretty good running back again. 8, which could mean he's in the 70s, could mean he's in the 80s. A 9, which could mean 80s or 90s for speed. Had a decent career out of Ohio State. Remember correctly, Ohio State is DP. Lester Williams is out of East Carolina, another running back. Pretty good career here, considering he's only had like 3 years. 10 agility, 8 speed, pretty strong. He seems like he's more of an inside running back. William Fort, pretty good center out of Florida State. They were Frankie at one point, but now they are on CPU. If you're interested in GMCFL, it runs similar to GMPFL in that you can do pretty much everything except for you have to use your coach's playbooks. Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, selected Jack Kelly. Pretty good defensive end. He seems to be pretty fast and had a pretty good career with 32 sacks at Kentucky. So this brings us to Udo, who I'm pretty sure is not on, and he already has somebody. So let me go back to Udo's. And Timothy Mull is a nose tackle out of Oregon, 13 sacks, 9 strength, not as fast, but a pretty short tackler. His intelligence could be better, but as a nose tackle, the strength matters more than most things in tackling, so that's a pretty good pickup. Seattle is, if I remember correctly, Kurt. It looks like Kurt has a list. Let's see if he's lurking around. I don't see him, so we will go ahead and CPU this. So let's go Hill, Seahawks, select. And now we are to the Indianapolis Colts. We'll take a look here real quick, see who's got Indianapolis. No one does. That is CPU. I think Las Vegas is also CPU. Yeah. So I'll just do these picks real quick, which will get us to Buffalo. And Buffalo is not on CPU. That's Mac. So let me go ahead and just get this update real quick. So I did Commandos, Seahawks, Colts, select, Sherman. Kaplan, Raiders, select, quarterback, Willie White, and we'll just see if Mank is around. I don't think he is because it looks like he's snoozing, but I'll give him a minute just to make sure. Let's see if he has a list. He does. But let's go back and take a look here real quick. Walter Barnes is a pretty fast, handsy type of cornerback. Knows his position really well. He's a shutdown corner, which means he'll get added bonus in coverage. Kaplan doesn't have a trade, 28 sacks out of LSU. Pretty decent defensive end though. Willie White is the quarterback out of Oregon State. He actually was one of the people I thought would be one of the top 2 picked. Pretty good stats, Hill. Pretty intelligent. And of course threw for almost 8,000 yards. So we'll see if Mank is around. And I don't think he is because I think his time is like 2:21. So go ahead and pick just to keep things moving. Bio will be up next, so he picks Del Burris. We'll take a look at that. Just see if Bio's around. He may not be. And clutch quarterback, which means that near the end of the halves, this quarterback will get bonuses. But 8 arm, 9 accuracy, 10 intelligence, 10 QB rating, pretty good quarterback. Out of TCU, threw for over 10,000 yards and 62 touchdowns. Definitely a quality quarterback though. And we'll give Bio a minute. I don't think he's on, but we'll see. Let's see what's going on. Make sure I'm not missing something. And so we've had quite a few quarterbacks go. I don't remember who I had on my big board for this. So Del Burris, I think, was the person I ranked as the top quarterback. And then Peterman was number 5. And I don't think we've seen other quarterbacks to look at were Richard Lima, Marvin Lima, and TJ Harris. So Richard Lima is from Alabama, Marvin's from Wisconsin, TJ Harris is from LSU. Running back wise, I had Clark at number 2, if I remember correctly. And then the other ones are still on the board, which is Daryl Jackson out of Miami, Florida, Armando Hark out of Duke, Jack Kirk out of SMU, Jose McCoon out of Michigan. So, little shocked with some of the wide receivers. I did have Ryan as the top wide receiver, but Donnell Simmons out of Florida State, Stanley Burkhardt out of Georgia Tech, Armand Roman out of Ohio State, and Vernon Woodley were my top five. They'll tight end, the top tight end is already off the board, which is Robert Terrell, and I think he was really the only one other than Richie Jimenez that I think should go in the first round. So we're going to go ahead and use uh, Bio's board. Let's just go ahead and do that. So he chose Marvin Lima. We'll go ahead and pick that. Select QB Marvin Lima. And this brings us to the Bengals, who I don't believe are a human team. Could be wrong. I'm not, so they will go ahead and select, and they choose Paul Lee. Paul Lee, who is, and this brings us to Detroit, which I believe, if I remember correctly, is Stewart. Let's see if he's around. Let's see here. Just see if he has something, and he does. He's looking at TJ Haynes. But let's go back and take a quick look and see what we have. So Marvin Lima, who was one of my top ones, is out of Wisconsin, threw for close to 12,000 yards and 100 touchdowns. Clutch QB, the depressed performer could be an issue, but straight nines for most of his stats. Also has mobility, which is a good trait depending on the system. So it's solid pickup for Cleveland. Paulie, the strong safety, pretty decent pickup Hill. I think from a big board, I did have him rated pretty high, but I'll have to check that later. So solid pickup for the CPU, again out of Ohio State, which right now is one of the more dominant programs, and that is, of course, DP. Let's see. We'll give Stuart a few minutes. I'll see if he's on. I don't see him on, so I'm going to go ahead and pick. They'll take TJ Haynes. Tampa Bay, I believe, is Kyle. I don't know that I saw a file for him. We'll see if he's on by chance. Yeah, I don't see Kyle on. Let's do a quick look and see if what he may need. Double check and make sure it is Kyle. It is. Tampa Bay. Quarterbacks, running backs. He's good in most positions. Could use a guard. Could use a wide receiver. Cornerback. Who is on the big board for guard? Dustin Carey or David Madrigal? Actually, let's see what his guards look like before I do that. His guards are nothing to write home about, but go with him. And this brings us now to the Saints. And I'm pretty sure the Saints are a CPU team, and they are, so we'll pick for them real quick, which then brings us to Denver. So let me get this updated, and then we'll look at these two. So select running linebacker Daniels Saints Mondo Hawk, and Denver is, if I remember correctly, should be Barry. Let's see if Barry's around. Let's see Barry on. See if he has a list. He does, so we'll go ahead and choose that. Selects. And this now takes us to Los Angeles, who is CPU, because that used to be Kevin. And we'll select that real quick, and then I'll just update both of these. Selects defensive end, Jeffrey, person, Chargers, select. So now we are to San Francisco, and San Francisco is Joe. Okay, so let's see if Joe has a list. I don't see him on. He does. So go ahead and pick Bill. And I need to look at these three players, so bear with me. Okay, so let's look at Jeffrey Person, who was Barry's pick. Pretty good stats for a defensive end out of Baylor. Pretty dominant in college, it looks like. And then we've had two safeties go in rapid succession. Colin Alford, who's out of Notre Dame, he looks more like a lineman. That could be a problem. That speed probably means he's in the 70s, but has really good agility. So again, could be a really good box safety. Travis Bliss, really good speed, good hands. That's a solid pickup for Joe Durman. And that brings us to the Houston Texans, who are CPU. So we'll go ahead and pick. And up next after this will be Miami, and I believe Miami is cable, if I remember correctly. Texans are Johnson. See if cable's around. See if he has a file. He does, so we'll just go ahead and pick. Let's go back here real quick. So at cable, go ahead and invite them in. It will give Cable a second, even though he has a thing, just to see. So far, pretty good turnout, and so I will remember to do that. Unfortunately, when I go live, it doesn't always work the way it does, but by the end of this, I'll switch it over so that everyone doesn't think I'm redoing the first round of the WWPF draft. Is Cable around? I don't see him on, so we'll go ahead and select and go back to draft recap. Dolphins. So a lot of defensive ends, quarterbacks, and running backs. Don't know what that says. Kansas City. Let's see where Kansas City is. I'm pretty sure Kansas City is on CPU. The next pick will be DP. Chief select. Defensive Gerard, Gary, DP. Just let DP have a moment or two. We'll check, make sure if he has a file or not. Doesn't look like he does, so we'll give him a minute. So going back, Cyril Washington is out of Baylor, 8 speed, 9 strength. That's actually a really good trait for defensive end. 24 sacks, so he can act as a bull rusher or speed rusher. And then you got Gerard Garay, who's a defensive tackle, really strong. Again, probably can play that nose tackle position and plug the gap. So pretty solid picks all around. I think there's only one pick that I think is questionable so far. So of course the key is we don't actually know how solid these picks are, just because of the fact that, again, with fog of war on, it's going to be really, really hard to see that. So we'll give DP the full 5 minutes. I don't really want to pick for him if I don't have to, so I'll just put the clock on. So Richard Lima is still on the board. Scott Humphrey out of Alabama. While we wait, we'll just look at the big board real quick. A couple people haven't seen many Sentinels guards. A couple tackles did go. But I think the second tackle is still on the board, Joseph Scarborough. Dustin Carey is a guard out of Miami, as well as David Madrigal, who's a guard out of Florida State. Both those I think are going to be pretty good. Matthew Butler is probably a good center out of Alabama. I had him rated higher than William Fort, who went earlier on this draft. Jack Kelly, of course, was the top rated defensive end. Sherman Kaplan, I don't think has went yet, but I'll have to double check that. As well as John Beauregard out of Penn State. Defensive tackles, quite a few of the top defensive tackles are off the board. Linebacker, really Abe Johnson was probably one of the better ones on the board. And then after that, you're really looking at inside linebackers. So it's been interesting. Okay, so I see DPs who I think is coming up. Just wait a few minutes, and I apologize, everyone. One of the problems with doing this on a Thursday night is not everybody's available. But again, apologies, everyone. I've been traveling, and trying to run this out of a hotel is next to impossible. Strong safety wise, Juan Atwood is still on the board. He was one of the top ones for me. And then David Chisholm out of Middle Tennessee and Nathan Goodwin out of Maryland were probably the top two free safeties, at least in my eyes, and I could be wrong. Quarterback, pretty much I think the quarterback is, you still have Richard Lima, who's on the board. Daryl Jackson is the top running back, so maybe he'll go soon. Richie Jimenez is another tight end that could go in the first round. Donnell Simmons out of Florida State. Stanley Burkhardt out of Georgia Tech, or other people to keep an eye on. I don't know if DP is on yet. So Cowboys will go ahead and pick. And now that brings up Carolina. Hold off on that for a second. I'll remember that. Cowboys select. Sheldon Brewer, free safety. Sheldon Rule. Free safety. Carolina, if I remember correctly, is... I think that is Spoof. Let's see if Spoof is around. Looks like he snoozed, so let's see if he has a board. He does. Carolina selects Richard Lima, quarterback. And I'm pretty sure that New England is on CPU. So let me just make sure, because I know which pick DWK wants. I want to make sure they don't take it from them. So that will go next. And I believe we're now at New York, so I can go ahead and accept that pick from DWK. Butler, Sentinel, Giants, select. He wanted the wide receiver, if I remember correctly. Just double check, make sure. Yes, he put in multiple places. Giants select, wide receiver. Just make sure I don't misclick this for whatever reason. Okay, so let's go back real quick and take a look at the last few picks. So Richard Lima out of Carolina is straight up nines. Looks pretty good, not very mobile. He's a gunslinger, which means that will be some benefit for like arm and his ability to throw the ball. So it looks like Smooth got himself a pretty good quarterback at Carolina. New England, Matthew Butler, pretty solid center out of Alabama. No real traits. Morale horrible. That's never a good sign when you're first entering the league. And then Armand Roman, who was DWK's pick for the Giants, had a pretty good career. Nines straight across. And again, that could mean high nines or it could mean eights, but that's a pretty solid wide receiver for late in the first. So good job, DWK. And of course, he's out of Ohio State, which is one of the better programs in the GMPFL. Baltimore is a CPU team. And so this gets us to, I believe, Starfinder. Select tight end Scott Hernandez at Starfinder. And we'll go, I think he has a list if I'm not mistaken. Swing screen. He does. Rick Levy. Let me just double check something. And I think we'll go ahead and CPU, and that will conclude the first round. Sorry for the speed round, guys. And I promise next time around we won't have some of the issues that we had, as long as I don't have work go crazy on me. Rick Levy. Okay, so all in all, lots of quarterbacks went, lots of running backs. I think all the depth at quarterback has been pretty much exceeded at this point. We had what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks go in the first round. We had 1, 2, 3, 4 running backs. So definitely a quarterback heavy draft. So that will be it for now. Thank you for joining us tonight for the GMPFL draft. For those of you in the GMPFL, we'll run the second round on Saturday. It'll be a list, so you'll need to upload. So again, thanks everybody for your time tonight. I hope you have a great night, and we'll catch up with you later.